What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Astrodfs bringing you a brand new video. Today's video, I am going over cash plays for Week 10's Sunday main slate. Now, we have quite a few games today, and we actually have some very good matchups. The spreads are crazy. There's at least 5 games with over a touchdown spread right now, with Pittsburgh being knocked off due to Ben Roethlisberger's injury. So there's quite a few plays today, and let's check them out. So I'm just going to talk about cash. I will mention GPPs as well, but mainly I'm going to try to focus on cash plays for you guys. So let's get started. So for me on cash, Tom Brady, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott are 3 of the more pair-ups as far as cash for me. Tom Brady, you get against Washington. Washington is terrible at home. Their defense is very banged up. Taylor Heineke almost beat Tampa Bay last year in the playoffs, so it's interesting to see how they do in the regular season. And then you have to remember Tom Brady could be without not only Antonio Brown, but Chris Godwin as well. I believe it's going to be a game-time decision on him. If Godwin's in, you like Brady a lot more. If Godwin's out, you still like Brady because it's Tom Brady. But I think the value goes down just a little bit compared to other quarterbacks today. So, for instance, Justin Herbert, $7,300 against Minnesota. Minnesota has given up a lot of points, especially to quarterbacks. And as you can see, Justin Herbert's numbers lately, he's put up some pretty good games, 45 against Cleveland and 34 against Philly. And this one's going to be a close game, in my opinion. I think both teams are kind of even as far as play style. I give the advantage to Minnesota, though. But I still think Justin Herbert balls out today. Dak Prescott against Atlanta. We saw what happened last season, Dallas, Atlanta, and we get them again. Dallas is at home. Dallas gets Michael Gallup back in their lineup. Cedric Wilson played very well, but Michael Gallup is better than Cedric Wilson. And we saw in Week 1 against Tampa Bay what Dak did. 58 passing attempts, 403 yards, 3 touchdowns. Now, granted, that's against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's secondary is terrible. Atlanta's secondary is terrible. Now, A.J. Terrell is playing very well, but you have to remember he has Amari Cooper, he has CeeDee Lamb, he has Michael Gallup, and he has Dalton Schultz. Very talented targets there. So Dak Prescott, probably price-wise, is one of my more favorite cash plays. Just because you get a pay down from Brady and Herbert, and you have a good game script for Prescott. Now, Dallas can easily come out and take a 20-point advantage over Atlanta just because of Atlanta being down receivers, and their best receiver is Russell Gage. And, I mean, technically their best receiver is Cordell Patterson, but he plays running back as well. And I'll talk about Matt Ryan because I actually do like him for cash as well, down here at 6,000. But you have to realize of how well Dallas's defense has looked in the season, and then you have to look at Matt Ryan's numbers. Now, Matt Ryan has hit quite a few games over 20 fantasy points this season, but a game against Philly's secondaries actually played well. A game against the Giants where we've seen the Giants get torched by any team, and a game against Carolina, and he doesn't put up quite a few fantasy points. Now, at the same time, you could look at Dallas's defense, so we'll just use Dak Prescott because it's easier. And they've given up quite a few points in games. So it's not to say that Matt Ryan shouldn't be on your watch, because he is. He's a cash play, in my opinion. And the same thing goes with the quarterback that's underneath him of Carson Once. Now, Carson Once is not usually a big fantasy quarterback. As you look at some of his numbers, and he doesn't really need to be, and we saw what Jonathan Taylor did against Jacksonville last season. But at $5,900, it's a very good price point for him, in my opinion, and someone I'm going to be looking at. Now, the same thing goes with Trevor Lawrence. Now, it's also the same thing of when I mentioned he's not a good fantasy quarterback for the most part. Only 2 games above 20, and we've seen him hit a 5 and an 8-point game. But those are against very good defenses. secondary in Indianapolis isn't very good. Trevor Lawrence is more of a GPP quarterback in my opinion, just because of his price, but he's also there to watch for. And I'll just throw out some GPP quarterbacks. I know I said I wouldn't, but I'm going to anyway. You get Tyler Heineke against Tampa Bay is a good tournament quarterback. Trevor Lawrence against the Colts. And then we go down and Trevor Siemian against the Titans. Now I know Taysom Hill is there, but Trevor Siemian, I believe, will start. So those are my GPP plays. You also have PJ Walker 5,000 against Arizona. It's not a terrible play, but he played very well the last game that he started the entire game. So that's interesting. Running backs, we get Christian McCaffrey 8,400. This is a discount for Christian McCaffrey. As you can see, we got him 8,000 last week, puts up 14.6 fantasy points. Now, you got to realize with PJ Walker being in, and you also have to see on the other side of the ball, Carolina's defense is very good. I think with Stephon Gilmore being there, it helps it a lot. They just have to find that thing that clicked early in the season. But with PJ Walker being in against a team like Arizona, you're going to have to play very smart. Christian McCaffrey at 8.4 thousand isn't a terrible play. Now, granted, he's playing against a very good defense, but you're getting a discount at a running back who essentially puts up 14.6 as the floor. And that's against a team like New England, where they were getting slaughtered because of Sam Darnold. Now, Arizona, if Kyler Murray's in the game, that changes a lot. It does. But there's a lot of injuries on that Arizona side that you have to watch out for. Plus, it should be known of how good the running back room looks this week. So, for instance, Jonathan Taylor against Jacksonville, a great play. Dalvin Cook against the Chargers, great play. Chargers like to stop the pass, so Dalvin Cook, run. Now, Najee Harris without Ben Roethlisberger against a terrible Detroit defense, 7,900. Austin Eckler, 7,600 against Minnesota. Just gets a lot of volume. Like, the running back, even fucking Ezekiel Elliott. Like, it's amazing. Like, there's so many plays here. So many great plays, in my opinion. But let's also go down and let's find the value, because there is value. So you get Alex Collins. Chris Carson not playing. Alex Collins hasn't put up the best fantasy points, but he has shared the ball at 5,200. He's definitely a play there. I don't know. I don't think I passed him. No, I did. Okay. Sorry about that. So Alex Collins, a play. We go down. Mark Ingram, going to be the lead back in New Orleans, put up fantasy points. You look at what Tennessee's done against the rush. It's not great. You look at the passing yards and their defensive yards. There's value there. There's definitely value there at 4,500 for Ingram. I'm just going to click because I know that I went past him. And Dearness Johnson at 4,700 against New England. So not the greatest matchups, but you're paying down. So you can easily afford, for instance, I said Dak is my favorite quarterback, so let's throw Dak in there. We could literally throw anybody. Let's put Najee Harris in there. I like Najee a lot. And then let's go down. Let's find the cheapest guy. So let's put Dearness Johnson in there. We're still sitting at 5,000. It's very good. Even if we throw flex. So let's throw flex. Let's throw Ingram in there just for the sake of it. That's not bad. 5,200 and you have your running backs picked out already. That's not bad at all. So let's go to wide receivers now. Let's go up. So you get Devonta Adams against Seattle. Devonta Adams just, trust me, top 5 best receivers in the league, probably top 3 at that. Fantasy points, he's put up some very good games, and he's put up some floor games. So he still gets you 10. Like, the floor is ridiculous. A player that could put up 10 fantasy points for a floor is crazy. But there's a lot of good matchups this week and a lot of good, interesting leverages that you can get to. So A.J. Brown against New Orleans is probably something that everyone's looking at, paying $100 cheaper from Devonta Adams, and no Derrick Henry, no Julio Jones, in a game that he's going to be heavily involved in. We've seen what he's done the last 4 weeks. And you could say, oh, he got 9.2 points against the Rams and only 42 yards. He still got targeted 11 times. His longest reception was only 16 yards. Like, they played very smart. They had the lead against the Rams, and they did what they needed to do. They didn't need to throw the ball. They're going to play New Orleans, a very good defense here as well. And being without Derrick Henry, being without Julio, he's going to be involved again. He's gotten at least 9 targets since he started this run. 9.2 points is the floor in that. And we've seen him get 2 weeks of 30 fantasy points. Now, it's not the greatest matchup in the whole wide world, but it's a very good matchup. So at 7,800, a very good price to get A.J. Brown. So you get someone like Terry McLaurin, not one of my more favorite plays just because of what Tampa Bay's defense has done, but you've seen him get some of those big plays. He's more of a GPP play in my opinion, but he should definitely be there on the lookout. No, you're going to have to watch the news about Chris Godwin today. Even if Chris Godwin's out, Mike Evans at 6,900 against the Washington defense, and just one of those guys that can take over a game, and especially being without Gronk, Antonio Brown, and possibly Chris Godwin. And like I said, if Godwin's in, he's playing for the most part banged up. Mike Evans should be that guy. You can also go Tyler Johnson. He's very cheap, and he should definitely get some looks today. And then you get CeeDee Lamb at 7,000 against Atlanta. Now, CeeDee Lamb is going to see less of A.J. Terrell than Amari Cooper, but you've seen what he's done in the last 4 weeks as well, and he still got 9 targets last week against Denver, and Dak and that offense just weren't clicking at all. Now, I put Denver's defense way above than I would put Atlanta's defense. I think Atlanta's got actually pretty lucky with the results of their pass defense lately. I just love Dallas's pass offense in this game. Keenan Allen against Minnesota is definitely someone else that I'm looking at, 7,000. And it seems like lately we've seen 3 out of the last 5 games he gets those targets. But guess what? We mentioned Devonta Adams at that price point of a player with a floor of 10 fantasy points. Look at Keenan Allen. The lowest amount of fantasy points he's put up this season is 10. That's kind of crazy. So you could get a discount. Devonta Adams, 79, not even that crazy a price. We've seen wide receivers well over 8,000. And you get Keenan Allen at 7,000 in a very good matchup as well. So that's something else to watch out for. Obviously, Deontay Johnson is someone that you look at as another player with a ridiculous floor, 11.7, and you get a discount. Like, there's very good wide receivers with that floor, and he's going to get the targets, but you also have to trust Mason Rudolph to throw Deontay Johnson the ball. Now, it won't be hard against this Detroit team, but you're also depending on Mason Rudolph. 6,800, still a good play, in my opinion. I'm going to stay away from Seattle receivers, although I like Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf with Russell Wilson. We've really not seen Green Bay's defense give up a lot of passing yards, and they should, just with all the injuries, but I'm just going to stay away from Seattle receivers here. Michael Pittman at 6,300. Another player that's been on a crazy run this season. Now, granted, you've seen him get the 5.8, the 5.9. Week 1 is a different story. I will say that. But the week against Houston, they just ran the ball. That's all they did. They used Hines quite a bit, and they didn't need Pittman. In this game, they could just run the ball again. It could happen, but at 6,300, you get a player who's played phenomenal this season. Obviously, the number 1 receiver in that offense. So, Michael Pittman is definitely there, a watch. DJ Moore, I'm going to stay away from just this week. I don't think it's a bad play with the amount of targets he gets. I just want to see what happens in that quarterback situation. I believe in PJ Walker. I really do. He's an XFL guy. But I don't know what they're going to do. I'd rely more on Christian McCaffrey more than anything else. I'm going to stay away from Devontae Smith. I don't want to comment on him as far as fantasy. And I think something interesting this week is actually Marvin Jones Jr. We haven't seen him play. Like, at the beginning of the year, he looked like a very reliable receiver to go with fantasy, 9, 11, and 8 targets. But lately, we've seen those targets come back, 10, 8, and then 5 last week against Buffalo. Jacksonville, especially if James Robinson is out, that's going to be something to watch for. Marvin Jones should definitely be a watch for that game. Cole Beasley against the Jets is a play I really like at 5,200. Jets defense has played really good, especially with Salah there as their coach. Definitely improving that defense, but I believe Buffalo should be able to score quite a bit against the Jets here, even though they are on the road. That's something you're going to have to watch out for. Not really a whole lot of more cash plays as much as it is GPP, but a play I do want to put out there, Michael Gallup, 4,000. Week 1 came out as 4,900 when he got hurt, 7.6 fantasy points. Now, he might not be heavily included in the offense this week, but it's definitely worth a watch, especially at 4,000 in a really good matchup. He's got an incredible matchup lining up in the slot, so that's definitely going to be something to watch out for. And then the other play is James Washington, 3,500 against Detroit. If Big Ben was in, he would be a play I'm definitely 100% looking at. But with Claypool out now, James Washington actually goes into that second role for me as far as receiving those targets. So it's going to be another play that I watch for. Tight ends is honestly kind of simple for me. Kyle Pitts against Dallas is probably one of the more favorable plays, but Dalton Schultz 5,000 against Atlanta. Blake Jarwin being out makes it very easy to play Dalton Schultz. Just the targets alone is what makes you like someone like a Dalton Schultz. So 2 was the least amount he got, and that was week 2. But other than that, 5 last week against Denver. He's usually averaged somewhere around 6. And he 3 touchdowns. So he's put up a lot of fantasy points without touchdowns. But you're also going to have to watch of what they do with Michael Gallup. But Dalton Schultz should still be a great play for you. Dawson Knox, 4,500, coming back. A tight end with a floor of 8 fantasy points is actually really good. No, his price is up there at 4,500, but I still think it's a very good price to pay for somebody. Noah Fant, 4,300 against Philly. I think that's a very, very, very good matchup and somebody else to watch out for. Fairmouth, the only reason I'm not going to say him, and he should be worth said, is 1, Big Ben's out, and 2, Eric Ebron is in. Dan Arnold against the Colts at 3,500 I think is a very good cheap play. He's been playing very well since joining the Jaguars. Conklin against the Chargers. Conklin, another tight end in the last 3 weeks. 5.77. The receptions are there, and the yards are pretty somewhat consistent. And you're paying $3,400 for. So those are my tight ends. Those are all my plays. GPP play I'll throw out there really quick because I forgot. OJ Howard, GPP, not a cash play, 2,700, and we've seen him get some of those looks, especially with Gronk being out. That's definitely worth a play. So hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like and subscribe. And if you guys are interested in seeing our plays for not only the NFL but the NBA season, which we are killing, the link for Discord will be down in the description down below. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.